All right, what's up, Mortgage Coach and Trust Engine community? Super pumped about this call, although I have been super pumped about a lot of conversations lately because there's so much change happening, so much opportunity happening. But today we have Jason Mitchell, America's number one loan officer, number one realtor in America. He's got a really unique business model. He's got a lot of thoughts on how this NAR settlement is going to play out. I've interviewed him multiple times before the NAR settlement came out. The first one was literally the first business day after the news hit. Remember that, brother?
I do.
Yeah, that interview got, I don't know, 30 some odd thousand views. So that went, like in our land, that's a lot of views. That went viral. So thank you for that leadership.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me back on. I love joining you. It's great. It's like I get my quarterly spot and we're good to go.
Oh, did you just commit to a quarterly spot? So like every quarter. This is a new thing, everybody. The number one realtor in America just agreed to a quarterly show on the.
You, Dave, absolutely. I saw you had my buddy Tom on the other day too.
Yeah, no, I had Tom last Wednesday and he just tore it up. I mean, he, as Tom always does. And coincidentally, I was at dinner with my wife last night, and who comes walking up but Tom. So I saw him again last night at dinner.
Yeah, he's the best in my opinion. Doesn't get much better than that.
He really is. His communication skills, how well he knows the space, and what a great strategic thinker is. He is the GOAT.
Yep.
So I want to. We're now it's Thursday. 1, 2, 3, 4 business days since the NAR settlement changes have taken place in America. Any thoughts? Any surprises?
I have some good data,
surprises?
Yeah, we have some good field data. Like, there's been so much BS about buyers agencies going away and all. Like, everyone has this opinion, and there was a lot of doom and gloom. But I think that the smart money bet on a much better process, because not just from the client experience side of things, and everyone should have representation agreements. That should be done. Clients should have full transparency and understanding what does this document actually represent. When you have that, and you have clarity and transparency from the very beginning, then you typically are going to have a smoother transaction. But what we find is that there was a lot of talk about commission compression, and a lot of talk about how sellers are just not going to offer it, so there'll be more dual agency. And, some of the states had made changes prior to August 17th that new rules were already in effect. All the states were a little bit different. And one market in particular, I'll give you the best example I can. So our top agent in Indianapolis closes like 90 deals a year. She's phenomenal. And since July 1st, she has 11 new contracts. I bring this up because of all the 11 contracts that she has in escrow, she's getting 3% on every single one of them, because we have the ability to negotiate in the contract the commissions. And what makes that really nice is my follow-up to her. She was down here in Scottsdale last week. We had a leadership retreat, which went really well. I said, what was the average co-broke in your market from what you can remember for years past? And she said, if you had a gun to my head, I would tell you our average co-broke is usually around 2.5%. If you take some 3s, some 2s, some in the middle. And I said, well, think about that. So your client understands your service level. Your client understands full transparency. Your client is now a buying client of yours. And so when you submit your offer, you're submitting 3%. Here's the price we're willing to pay. Here's 3%. Are you finding that sellers are negotiating your commissions? She said, I haven't had one. And I say that she hasn't had one in the sense that we know there are going to be sellers that will negotiate commissions when a contract comes in with the cost of the sale associated with it. There's always going to be some outlying people. But for the most part, Dave, and I think we talked about this in the past, what gets negotiated is the price. because the cost of sale is simply a byproduct of whatever the final price of the home becomes. So to her, what she's saying is, no, they just negotiate on price. So, you know, if this is the cost of sale, instead of paying $490, I want $500. Go back to your client, they want $500, tell them $495. $495, cost of sale doesn't change. Very rarely does the cost of sale change in negotiations until either, in our case, you get in due diligence where you might see some credits, which has been common forever anyways, right? But I think that's secondary. And I also believe, so think about that. So between 11 transactions, so let's say the average price is 350, okay? I should have did easier math. Let's say it's 400, so we can just say it's 4.4 million in volume. So 4.4 million in volume at a half point, that's $22,000. So in 1 month, because she's able to submit a contract with what she feels her worth is, and in these cases, they were all 3%, and her clients agreed that was fine. She's made an extra $22,000 because she doesn't have to now be told what she's going to make. And that was a major point that I tried to make. I saw a major breakage from, I don't want to get into NAR. We'll be here for hours, but the breaking point of what I didn't like that came down was the transparency to the consumer. What I did like about it was we actually now get to negotiate what we feel our worth is and what our clients agree that they feel our worth is. See, the problem before was, if I'm spending time with Mr. Savage every weekend for 2 months straight until I find him the perfect home, and he stumbles upon this home of which some other listing agent who listed the house 2 months ago decided that they only wanted to offer 1% co-broke in the MLS, guess what? That's what I made on that house, on that home. That's not fair. That's crazy. I've spent an incredible amount of time with Mr. Savage. I deserve my fee, but someone else was dictating what our value was. And that's the way it worked for years. Like that concept of somebody I've never met and a person that I'm not even working with selling the asset are determining what I'm going to get paid should I bring a buyer into this home. They have no idea how much time I've spent, effort I spent, how many times we've lost a contract, yet it's a universal, you're getting 1% or you're only getting 2% just because we say so. That's crazy. And now we're in a position where we're able to submit our worth, our value. And you know what, Dave? Some people are going to put 4%. And as long as the client doesn't have a problem with that, so be it. I'll tell you what you're going to see. You're going to see as these, and you know, I just had breakfast this morning with Brian Bear, the founder of OfferPad. He's a good friend of mine. He lives in the same community I do. And we were having breakfast. This is a crazy stat, Dave. This is a crazy stat. We're on pace to sell 4.1 million properties this year as a country. It's the lowest trading market of homes in over 20 years. It's actually lower than 2008. 2008, 4.3 million homes traded that year. We're pacing at 4.1. And so the buyer demand is not there right now. Number of factors: 1, rates; 2, pricing; and 3, an election. And so buyers are sitting on the fence right now. And Brian's prediction is it's going to be like that for a certain period of time. He thinks through spring of next year. And I agree with him. Now, why do I say this? I say this because with any market, the longer homes are sitting, the more anxious sellers get and the more buyers can ask. There's a reason that builders, when times are slow, offer a 4 and 5% co-broke because they're trying to push inventory. Well, when the market's the reverse, when it's a seller's market, that's when you see people not as aggressive when it comes to cost of sale or commissions. We're not in that space right now. This entire country is becoming a buyer's market. 44% rise in inventories the first 6 months out of the year. That's going to continue to go up. And what's going to start to happen is, whether it's good or bad thing, you're going to start to see some home prices depreciate in a lot of areas. I don't think, you know, Dave, not homes like yours, not homes like mine, not homes like people that live in expensive communities. But I'm telling you, Dave, the VA, FHA, the $300,000 market, the $400,000 market, they're going to take a hit. I mean, I'd be shocked if anybody that has bought a home over the past 18 months that is in that average price point of a typical community, that they're not a little bit upside down. I'd be shocked, because what's going to happen is, as this increased competition goes, see, the majority of homes that are in that price point, and Brian and I were talking about this morning too, that are in that $300,000 to $500,000 price point, most of those homes have a lot of similar attributes. A lot of them are production build homes in production build communities. Well, when you start to see another one pop up and another one pop up on the market, it's one thing if you have a community of 100 homes and there's only 5 available. It's another when there's 20, because all it takes one seller saying, just lowball this thing and get me out of it. That's your new comp. And as inventory continues to go up, we're going to start to see some depreciation in many communities. Now, I don't think it's going to be detrimental, but I absolutely think there's stabilization and potential lowering of prices up until 2025. Now, what can offset that? Rates can certainly offset that, no question. But if inventories continue to go up, and even if rates go down, you're still going to have this competition in the market center.
Yeah, you've got a drag on the entry-level home that, to your point, it's either not going to perform like there's a dual market, and usually the dual market favors the entry level, but you're saying given the current circumstances, it's going to disfavor, and there's going to be wind at the back. So I can't argue with your logic. So by the way, that's a prediction.
I think part of it too, though, Dave, when you you're the master of the lending world. Think about this. Don't think for one second that banks aren't aware that this is coming and the cash out LTVs start to get lower, because the only people that are doing cash out, and there's a lot of them, is because they simply can't access cash right now and they need money to pay off credit card debt or whatever it is. So they're pulling cash out, trading a 3% rate for a 6.5%, 7% rate. No one does that because they want to. They do it because they have to. Well, if that equity starts to get tapped and you can't access capital anymore, but you're buried in credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever it is, you're going to be forced to sell your home. And that's just an unfortunate circumstance, but unfortunately, it's happening to a lot of people right now. I mean, this economy, I don't want to get into politics, but the reality is this economy has crushed people over the past 4 years. The price to live in this country is insane, and it's only getting more expensive. They can say they got a handle on inflation. That you can say that all you want. The damage has already been done. That's not changing. McDonald's isn't going from having what was, a $7 Big Mac combo meal. Now it's 12. Like, they're not going backwards. The stage has been set. The reality is wages haven't increased enough, not even close. And so eventually people have to sell their assets. But here's my point of this. If this competition increases, the excess of liquidity shrinks because the LTVs on what you can borrow will shrink, which forces sale. The more sales that are forced, the more competition, meaning now you got to start lowering the price in order to sell it because you have more competition in the market center. And I think this is coming. I don't think this is me just making this up. I believe we're heading to something like this.
So I have let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 trends that I want to get your prediction on. And so you just made one, which I didn't come to the call expecting that. And I think you might actually be the first one that called out that specific market segment. Although I interviewed Steve De La Viega, Stevie D, as I call him, a couple of days ago. It actually hit our YouTube channel yesterday, and it was called the $300 trillion opportunity. And he did kind of speak to that market. And I don't know that he's the one that introduced you and I. I think Craig Sewing, Mr. American Dream, actually is the first one to introduce us. But, we obviously have a common friend with Steve. He's also a local Phoenix, Scottsdale guy. Are you familiar with what he's up to in terms of identifying, all the distressed homeowners and
Very
some
much.
of the data?
Yeah, he's a good partner of the firms for sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? In addition to what you called, lowering values in that segment, but just starting to see more distressed families, households in distress. I mean, I was
That's what
shocked at the number that he shared of how many households are in distress right now in America.
Well, that's what it's going to lead to more of that, because now with increased competition and not the ability to access your liquidity, you're forced to sell increased competition. The reality is now all of a sudden it only takes a few homes. If you're in a neighborhood, it only takes a few homes to immediately lose 5 to 10% equity because they are forced to sell at a low price. Like, that's the risk out there right now, is that the competition, as it increases, you are very much exposed, and it follows that downward trend. And I do believe we're going to see that. Now, I don't think it gets crushed 20%, 25%, but I absolutely think we're going to see home values go down in most parts of the country in these typical average American homes. I think that there's isolated pockets when it comes to luxury and or higher end communities because they're so nichey. And also because most of the time, unique properties don't usually see a tail like your typical 3 to 4 bedroom, 2,500 square feet, cookie cutter type properties. And that's what a lot of this country is now, because we've seen such a production boom since 2000 that many homes in this country are production based type properties. So I believe it's coming. I believe that we're in a really bad spot with debt in this country. And even though there is a lot of equity out there, that's great. But if you can't access the equity from a cash out and or a sale of your home, maximizing the equity because the equity's position's going down month over month, it's only good on paper. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And I am seeing in our community, a lot of loan officers leaning in, like we're predicting households that have equity that look like a cash out. And not only are you seeing cash out refis, a debt consol refis on the up, but you're seeing people just sell it, take all the cash out, and then go back into the market with a move up home and actually be better off, like because they paid off all their debt.
Yeah.
They got out of trouble. They put 5% down on the move up home. They got a bigger home and they did that. So that seems to be increasing. So let me go through a few of other predictions. Did you want to say something there before I ask?
Well, I was going to say it also can work in the adverse, meaning if the equity, and this is what's happening, and Brian was saying this morning too, when you start to hit the tail, companies like OfferPad need to stay 6 months ahead of what the market currently is. And when you're hitting a tail, consumers always think their home is worth what the last home traded for, but it's not. It's worth what the active inventory is saying it's worth, not the last comp. They got to base the futures of housing is based on active, not sold. And so if homes are sitting longer and showings aren't occurring, even though your neighbor that sold their home 3 months ago, and it's the same house for $1 million, and you think your home's worth $1 million, if there's less buyer demand and less activity, the market is telling you and showing you your home is not worth $1 million. Even though they found a buyer for $1 million, there's no buyers right now at $1 million. And if you do need to sell, you have to lower the price. What I mean by adverse is if you think you have 200 grand in equity, and now all of a sudden the market's telling you don't, is it now 150? Is it now 100? And depending on how low that spread gets, will affect your future decision on what you buy in the future, or if you choose to rent in the future, because you may not qualify for down payment purposes in many circumstances because you couldn't tap into as much equity that you thought you may have available.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really, really good point. Well, I've got 3 important questions I want to get before we run out of time. By the way, anyone who just tuned in, we are interviewing the #1 realtor in America, Jason Mitchell. Jason, how much in real estate volume do you expect to go through the Mitchell Group this year?
We're on pace to do like 5.1 billion, 5.2-ish, somewhere like that.
So significant 5.2 billion. I'm going to put that number down. Let's hit it so that when I interview you in the 4th quarter, you're on track for 5.2. How many total agents under your leadership in your team?
Throughout the country, there's somewhere in the ballpark of 800.
So 800 agents. So hopefully the takeaway is the guy knows a little something about what's going on in the market. And he's also always been someone that's like, where is the puck going? And so with this said, I want to ask your prediction, short term and long term.
Mhm.
What percentage of houses, when the buyer is making an offer on that house, are they going to be making an offer blind, not knowing whether the seller is going to pay the buyer agent commission or how much? Like, how often is it where they kind of know, they've either been told or they know, versus blind? And I want to know short term and long term, what's your prediction?
Well, I will tell you, when we started this discussion, I didn't hit on that piece, but I did mention where I think that the real breaking point was with NAR, without talking about NAR, where I think they really screwed up. And that's the transparency from the very beginning on if commissions are being offered. And I say that this is a big problem in the buyer cycle, because if you ask most buyers, do you want to pay my fees out of your pocket? They're going to say, no, I don't. That's 90+% of buyers would say, no, I don't want to pay out of pocket.
99.9% of buyers will say no to that.
Right. I mean, honestly, Dave, even guys like me and you, no, I want to, like, no,
No.
I want the seller to pay, although it's rolled into the purchase price.
Yeah, I'm paying, but I want it financed in the transaction.
Correct. So the problem is now, if Mr. and Mrs. Savage find this home online that they fall in love with, I have to tell them, I'm happy to show it to you, but I need to make a phone call to make sure that they're offering my compensation to be covered, because if not, you'll have to come out of pocket. Okay, give them a call. We are not paying seller compensation, or we are not paying buyer broker compensation. I got to call you back and say, I'd love to show it to you, but you're going to have to pay out of pocket in this one. They're either going to get upset, but most people are going to say, then show me the next one, which is why the seller mentality has to understand, if you don't offer cooperative compensation, people aren't going to see your house.
But aren't a lot of sellers just going to go, hey, we're not disclosing, make your best offer, and we'll respond. Tell us what you want, we'll respond. And that's just going to be a blind offer, not knowing yes or no. Because
I think that's out there. But in most cases, if you're a smart seller and a smart selling agent, you're saying, no, we want to disclose this, that, hey, just bring us your best offer. We're willing. That's my point. My point is, I don't need to know what the percentage is online. I just need to know that it's available, because all that matters after that point is, what are you offering on the home? What I offer on the home will determine what they're willing to pay me in terms of compensation to cover my fees. So, if I call you up and I say, hey, are you guys willing to pay cooperative compensation? And your answer is yes. I don't need to follow up with, well, how much? And a lot of agents are going to ask that follow-up question, well, how much? You could just put the answer to that question on repeat. It depends on what your offer is. That's the answer.
yeah.
It's not a
Well, I know Tom thinks, he said in the short run, more than 50% they'll know, but in the long run, I don't think they'll know. And I don't know if it's rumor, but I heard EXP is taking the position that, don't disclose. And my guess is other big platforms are going to take the position not to disclose whether you're participating or not. So buyer's agents are going to be offering blind. And now I will tell you what we're doing here at Mortgage Coach.
Yeah.
And what we're hearing from loan officers is they're using our total cost analysis as part of the pre-qualification process with the consumer. And they're saying, hey, column A is they're paying, which we think the majority of them will pay. To your point, that's what you're experiencing. Column B is we're going to have to raise the purchase price to cover it. Like, if they're not paying, we're going to have to pay more. Column C is you're going to have to adjust your down payment. Or column B, or A, B, C, D, the fourth column is you got to bring more cash to close and you're going to have to pay it. So at least the consumer is saying, hey, I can make an offer confidently and clearly because I know best case, worst case. And so we believe that the mortgage professional will actually help the buyer's agent
Oh, they have to.
navigate that conversation. So at the end of the day, the buyer agent's like, I hope they pay. I hope we get the price we want, but we're prepared.
Oh.
We've got plan A, B, C, and D. What are your thoughts on all that?
Right before this call, I was on with 470 loan officers at New American Funding, explaining how important it is that you guys lead the charge as loan officers more than ever. First of all, the connection between realtor and loan officer has never been more important, because when that loan officer, if they haven't been connected to a realtor yet, the loan officer needs to foreshadow that I'm going to get you with one of my agent partners, and they're going to have a buyer broker agreement for you to sign that allows them to show you houses. Don't get into the weeds, but foreshadow that it's coming, because the more of your realtor partners that have your guys' mutual client in a buyer broker agreement, those are the people that become the new pipeline. Those are the people that you need to follow up with. Those are the real serious buyers out there. But the ones that don't do that, you have to connect your clients to a trusted agent partner, because if they go find their own real estate agent and they get them under a buyer broker, they're going to say, I know, New American Funding's great, but you should talk to my guy, my local guy. I mean, that's what happens. And so the connectivity between LO and agent has never been more important. And furthermore, a lot of agents are uneducated on, look, loan officers control the verbiage when it comes to underwriting and how it should be expressed in a contract, so we can have a purchase contract that reads correctly in order to get it approved. Agents don't know that terminology. Loan officers have to educate agents. Hey, when you go to write this contract, this is what I need you to put into the additional terms and conditions when it comes to commissions, so I can actually get this approved through guidelines, right? Through underwriting. And so the communication has to be at an all-time high right now. It has to.
Yeah. So let's get a prediction. So blind offers defined as I'm making an offer and I do not know. Short run, less than 50%. I think you've made that clear.
Yeah.
Long run, this time next year, do you think it will get to the point where it's 50% blind offers?
No.
You think it will get to the point where it's 30, 20% blind?
Maybe 20. I mean, look, it's ignorant if you're a seller, because why would I want somebody to have to guess if I'm offering you cooperative compensation?
Well, first of all, if you're in a multiple offer situation, and again, assuming it's a seller's market. I mean, if it's a buyer's agent, I don't think there's anything to discuss. You're right. You want to give incentives, you want to get offers, but if it's a multiple offer listing, what is really the incentive to give them
Oh my
a
God.
tell?
No, because look, I've coached agents on this thousands of times. The agents that sit back there and are like, well, we have multiple offers. Like, think about this scenario. Think of how much you're hurting a seller if you do these things. And so many agents do this. Yes, we're accepting offers, but we do have a couple offers on the table right now. Okay. Can you tell me where we need to be at to be the best offer? I can't disclose that. Well, you actually can disclose that. And the reality is, if you actually tell them the truth and you say, well, I have Mr. Savage's home under contract right now for $1 million. These are the additional terms and conditions. So if you want to beat it, beat it. And guess what? If they want the house, they're going to do better than what's currently on the table. But if I leave it up for you to guess what my best offer is, and you go under $1 million because you have no idea, I just did my client a disservice, because I didn't disclose the truth. And by disclosing the truth, I could have probably got you more money. I mean, when I sold my house 3 years ago, I had 6, 7 offers, like a lot of people when they sold their house 3.5 years ago. There was a ton of offers. Every time I got a call, where are you at? This is where I'm at. Why did I tell them that? Because I had a feeling they would go above that because they wanted my house. If I just said, take a guess, that's not doing me any favors. So I completely disagree with the notion of you shouldn't disclose. Like, disclosing is the best form of transparency to both sides, because I also, by disclosing, not only can I get you to potentially better your offering price, I might be able to get you to better the terms and conditions. Maybe you don't need a 30-day lease back, but somebody needed that for themselves. I don't need that, right? Like, if you want something and you know it's on the table, you can do better than what's on the table. And so many agents just leave that up in the air. You could have cost your client thousands and thousands of dollars that they could have had.
Okay. So got it. So here's 2 more questions. But this one's the last prediction. I've been hearing from pretty much, like the topic you and I just had, I've heard different answers on both sides. So let's just call it debatable. Not by
Yeah,
me, because I'm not an expert and I'm not an agent, but among agents,
I agree.
that's a debatable issue. Open
Yep.
houses, no one's debated that there's going to be more open houses and more buyers going to open houses. And so get your open house game on. What's the Jason Mitchell? Because knowing you're ahead of that and you're like creating systems and processes to do it. But what are your strategic thoughts on open houses and bigger deal, same, any new moves there?
Um, I built our whole company was built by me doing open houses 15 years ago. And if you count my new construction career, that's an open house every day. I mean, the reality is that you have to do them. It's just like, if you don't like heights, then don't be on a roof. Don't be a roofer. If you don't like doing open houses and don't like working weekends, then don't be a real estate professional. The reason that they're going to get more traffic is because people are looking for their own home because they feel as though they can potentially save some money. And that's just a fact. Smart consumers would do that. And do I think that consumers are going to negotiate buyer broker commissions? I do. Do I think it's a lot? No, I don't think it's a lot, but I think there will be a chunk of the market that does do that. Where that part actually gets impactful, I think in the luxury market, you see that get impactful. Hey, you're looking for a $4 million house? Great. If there's a 3% commission being offered, I want half of it. I only want to pay you 1.5. Like, I see the luxury market potentially taking a hit on buyer commissions because it's very expensive, right? And they can save some money. I don't think the 4s and 5s and 6s, I don't think that gets impacted too much. But I think the luxury, it does create an impact. But open houses, I absolutely think they're going to have more traffic because smart buyers out there are going to say, look, I might be able to negotiate more if I find my own agent and I find my own home. They probably will. Also, it's a way from a buyer broker representation side of things. It's also a way that you can meet a real estate agent face to face and like them and say, this is actually the person I want. Like, for me, I would look at it as an opportunity that I can have an in-person interview. If there's 10 people that come through that day, that open house, I get to interview 10 people get to interview me that day. So I'll tell you what, agents out there that are doing open houses, you better look good. Your car better be clean. The house better present well. Like, this is your opportunity to potentially gain clients that now have to sign a representation agreement, but they get to see you face to face, which is a bigger advantage than blindly calling somebody off the internet.
So from Jason Mitchell, there's going to be more buyers going through these open houses. So there's a bigger show to go on. Get your game face on. Give me just a quick minute or two checklist on the Jason Mitchell open house. Like, if you were going to do an open house this weekend, or you were talking to a new agent, hey, what's the checklist? What are the things that you're going to tell people to do to deliver a Jason Mitchell open house?
Number one, you go where the people are. A lot of agents want to do these luxury open houses. They've never sold a luxury home. Like, that's such a waste of time. People can sniff out that you don't sell agents that have never sold $1 million home are sitting a $5 million home open. That is so stupid. That is so stupid. People can sniff that out. Stick to your lane. I very rarely did super luxury open houses because most people aren't going in them because most people can't afford it. I sat in 5s, 6s, and 7s because guess what? That's where I'm going to see the most people. 4s, 5s, 6s, and 7s, I'm going to get traffic in. So number one is making sure you're sitting the right home. Number two, make sure you're sitting a home that's accessible, meaning accessible by traffic. There's many reasons to do open houses, and one of them is your brand gets to be put on the corner all over the place that day. So the more traffic that comes by, the more people that are seeing your name on that open house sign. There's value to that. So don't put up 3 signs, put up 20. If you're going to take the time to spend 4 to 5 hours at an open house, take the 45 minutes to set up 15 to 20 signs so thousands of people that day can see your brand when they drive around. Number two, don't do an open house that's hard to get to because you won't have a lot of traffic. The goal is to get traffic at the open house. So we want to make sure that we have good bootleg signs out and they're in busier areas so we can drive as many people into that home and that community as possible. Now, once we're at the home, several things need to happen. Number one, your car better be clean. I don't know about you, but I'd never buy a home from somebody that has a dirty car. That to me is indicative of how they are in business. If you show up to an open house with a dirty car and it looks dirty on the outside and dirty on the inside, I would, and this ain't me, I think most people are smart enough that they're like, I'm the only one here. That must be the realtor's car. Why does it look like shit? I would never buy a house from that person, ever. Make sure your car's clean. I've been in open houses where agents wear t-shirts. I wouldn't buy a home from you if you are wearing a t-shirt. You need to look sharp. You're going to work. This is work. So one, car cleaned. Don't park in the driveway. You park on the street. You want the driveway to be clear so you can have more traffic coming in without walking around your car. You're looking good. Bring some type of snack because the kitchen becomes the place of discussion. And if there's food and cookies and whatnot at the table, there's a lot of kids that go through open house with their parents. They can have a snack. The parents can have a snack. That's why you always have water, juice, cookies, all that stuff, because ultimately you want to engage with this person through discussion. The more you can keep them at the home, the more you can have an intelligent conversation. Number two, make sure that the house feels like home. A lot of times you'll go through an open house and half the lights in the home aren't on. What are you doing? Every light in the home is on. There's windows cracked so people can hear the lawns being cut. They can hear the traffic coming by. It sounds like a home. If you walk into an open house and there's no TV on, you don't have any music on, and all the windows are shut, it just feels uncomfortable. You feel like you're walking into a cave. You want people to go to a home and it's vibrant. There's music going, there's cookies in the oven, there's football on TV, you can hear people outside. Like, this feels comfortable. It feels like I'm living at home. So open up the house, get the house open, get it livable. And then most importantly is from an engagement perspective, give people some time. When they come in, explain the home, how big it is, price, hand them a sheet, let them go on their way. Slowly, as they're working their way through the home, as they start to come back down, we ponder questions. But when you start to ponder questions, don't ponder questions about the house. Ponder questions about them. If you're sitting at home on Sunday and people come in all dressed up, oh, are you folks coming from church? Yes, we are. What church do you belong to? We belong to the one down the street. Oh, that's great. Well, if it's a Catholic church, they're clearly like you can make something out of that. A lot of times on Saturday, guess what? Kids come in and they're in their soccer jerseys. Hey, did you have a game today? Yeah. Did you win? Oh, cool, man. That's great. Awesome. High five. A lot of times people come in from their activities, riding a bicycle or whatnot. Like, engage with questions that have nothing to do with the house. Because when you start to do that, you get a flavor for what they're about, where they're coming from. Are you local to the area? No. Okay, they're coming from out of town. We're visiting family. Where does your family live? They live in North Phoenix. What has you shopping in Scottsdale potentially? Well, we're considering moving here for work. What do you do for work? We do this and that and the other thing. Like, every question in an open house should be leading you down the path of information gathering so you can get an idea of really what's going on here. And as we engage in discussion and it's fruitful, we then can start to add credibility to what's going on with us, that you're an expert in the area. You like this home because of this. There's some other good values out there. Like, you need to quickly add credibility to what you do, but make it to where it's just open discussion, because the goal is to get this person to utilize your services in the future. And information gathering is key. Don't ever ask somebody staring at them, do you mind if I get your number to call you if a home comes on the market? That's crazy. If we had a great discussion, I'm saying, hey, look, there's some other great properties. I really think you should check them out. If you want to, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Let me shoot those over to you, and you can, and we can get you in there anytime. Dave, what is your best email address? And I look down. I'm waiting for you to give me your email. You have to give me your email, because if you don't, you look foolish. If I'm looking at you, you'd be like, no, it's fine. But when I say that and now I'm looking down waiting for it, you're going to give me your email address just because it'd be awkward if you didn't. So there's just an art form to gathering information as well at the open house and who to follow up with and who not to follow up with. But all this comes from practice. The reality is most agents don't even do open houses. And if you don't do open houses and you don't have any, like I used to position my showings around open houses. I'll do my showings on the weekday. I'll do my showings when they get out of work, before work, or at lunch. But I'm doing 2 or 3 hours of an open house that day because I can get all my work done at that open house. So whatever I could do to be at an open house is what I did.
Yeah. And I think there'll be, more days of the week, not just the Saturday or Sunday open house. So last question, any specific leadership? One more thing before we go off that. Reminder to everyone, we now have a new playlist called Optimizing Open Houses because Mortgage Coach is a great tool to use at open houses. So make sure you watch that. You'll hear how some of the best realtors, how some of the best loan officers are leveraging our digital experience to capture leads and to create value. You need to create more education, more value than ever before. So check that out. So closing thoughts on, you're speaking to a lot of loan officers. I'm sure that you've said a lot of things. They'll share this with realtors. So realtors watch this, mortgage professionals will watch this, but closing thoughts on if you're a loan officer, if you're a mortgage coach, how can you be most valuable to a realtor right now?
Educating them on products and programs. I mean, and ensuring that, like the value becomes, what is the playbook? All the time, I get a text from a loan officer. Hey, I'd love to have lunch with you and show you what I got. Yeah, you and everybody else. Like there's no separation between you and the next person that just texted me. What is it that you're proposing? And why is it worth my time? But I'm not going to do that through text. If I send you a text, and I say, I'll follow up with you later, and then I actually reach out and call you, and I call you, and I finally get you on the phone, I got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Hey, look, I know you work with other people. I understand that. I can accept it. I literally built my entire business off of being somebody else's second choice. What I want to show you, though, are some great products that I know your clients can capitalize on, but also I want to see how I can help build your business. This isn't about you using me, Jason Mitchell. This is about how Dave Savage can help me through some of the programs I help my agents with so they can close more business. It's worth a coffee. Will you meet me for coffee? It's hard to say no to that. But one, people don't want to pick up the phone. They hide behind email and they hide behind text. And then two, they don't have a value proposition. You got to have a value proposition and you got to be willing to pick up the phone. And if you do that and you say, look, I built my whole business on being the second choice to people to start with, and I become their number one choice in the end, like that resonates because every decent agent out there has a go-to lender. But do they have a great second choice? Maybe not. But there's just ways to go about farming for agents to be more effective.
Love it, brother. Dude, hugely appreciate you. Thank you for always being willing to jump into this community. If anyone wanted to follow you, what are the best places to follow you? Is there any workshops, anything you're doing that both lenders and realtors should know about? How should we close this out and how can people follow you and get more from you?
The best way is just social media. It's Jason Mitchell _ JMG on IG. That's the best way. I don't do the coaching thing. It's just not my thing. I stay focused on building the company. So other than that, I do a lot of stuff on my YouTube in terms of tips and coaching tips. And it seems to be growing pretty decently. So you can go to my YouTube channel as well. There's tons of coaching videos on my YouTube channel, like really good stuff for LOs and for realtors.
So we'll put a link down below if you're watching this in YouTube, link down below for Jason Mitchell. If you have not already subscribed to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, subscribe now. You'll get alerts as we put new videos into it. And if you're not following savageinsights.com, follow it today. Make sure you get into the mobile club. I have a mobile club where I am alerting like the best content every week, just 1 or 2 texts. This is what's most important this week. This is what's most important right now. if you want to be a mortgage advisor. You want to be the best, most elite mortgage advisor? Follow us today. Well, thank you, brother. It's been a great chat.
You bet.
Take care,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
This
Thank you.
this is a